Hello, on this episode of the RetroGen podcast, I have with me two guests. I have Joe Roguszka and Wesley Gee. Say hello,
Hello.
guys.
Hello.
After you, Jim.
All right, so
Hello, I'm Wes.
what sort of things do you two do?
So I'm Joe Roguszka. I did film production at Derby University, graduated several years ago. Graduated 2018, I think. Then did a MA in screenwriting in 2019. I'm really into filmmaking and screenwriting. Screenwriting is my main ambition. I've sort of got various television projects primarily that I'm sort of developing with the ambition of hopefully getting them, sort of pitching them to networks and producers in the future to see if I can get them commissioned. So that's sort of my main ambition, my main passion in life, really. And did you want to know like what I do outside of that as well? Or?
Yeah, go on, man.
Yeah. I'm doing copywriting at the moment, so I'm just starting out as a freelance copywriter. So that's sort of my day job, if you like. I'm doing freelance copywriting to pay the bills, so to speak. And hobbies, I watch a lot of movies. I'm also doing a bit of content writing as well. Do some rock climbing. Went rock climbing with Wes's friend Leon Crimes recently. Been trying to go again, but Leon won't respond to my text. So.
Leon Crimes.
So this is a call for Leon. We need to go rock climbing again. If you'll respond to my text, please, then we can go rock climbing again. Because that was fun.
That guy responding to your texts.
Yeah, no, it's a long shot. It's a long shot.
You got to dream on.
Yeah.
He's a busy man.
Another hobby is NFL. I'm really into NFL. I'm a Cincinnati Bengals fan. Probably have to cut that out because they always tell you that you're not supposed to say the name of their team and stuff. Anyway, yes, that's me. Wes, yourself?
Fight Club. My name's Wesley Gee. I went to the same university as Joe. And I just like to make dreams come true. Creative man of all trades. Big fan of shout out to cannolis.
Is that a cannoli?
Yeah, if you haven't tried,
I've never seen one in real life.
You haven't tried this.
What is it?
Delectable Italian pastry dish. It's hard to explain. It's basically it's like a hard, sweet, crispy pastry. I don't know. It's like it crosses the line between a pastry and a biscuit. It's like a tube. Let me show you.
Twofer.
Like a tube.
Okay.
Oh right.
And it's stuffed with this like thick kind of flavored cream. This is like a lemon flavored cannoli. Very, very good. Very good stuff. I first had them in Brighton. I was in an Italian cafe. The sun was out. The wind was gentle, caressing my skin. Ate a cannoli. Very nice. You should try it. If you've never had one, you should try one. They're really good.
Okay.
But enough about cannolis.
Yeah, we're here today to talk about a particular project. Project called 20th Century Tribe, which is sort of like the brainchild of you, Joe. Could you talk more about it? Like, what's it about? That sort of thing.
Yeah. Do you want me to start sort of like where the idea initially came from? Like go back to the source? Yeah. So
yeah.
So basically, in my second year of uni, when I was doing the editing module, we had to like basically edit some sort of like documentary for a short documentary, and I somehow stumbled across archive VHS footage from the 90s rave scene on YouTube. I just found it organically, really. And I was just really fascinated by it. I just thought like it looks like this really amazing sort of subculture that I'd sort of looked back on and thought it would have been really cool to have actually been a part of that. So then I sort of became obsessed with the 90s rave scene at that time. And I made a short documentary, sort of like 2 3-minute documentary little video about the 90s rave scene for my editing module. And from there, I sort of decided I wanted to to write something set in the 90s rave scene. A lot of it comes from my sort of nostalgia. I'm sort of a nostalgia addict, I suppose, particularly for the 90s. You know, it's the decade that I grew up.
Born at the right time.
Yeah, I was born in the early 90s, so you know I have a very fond, bold memory of the 90s. So a lot of it comes from nostalgia as well. But basically, I just sort of, you know, I just felt like I really wanted to write something set in the 90s rave scene. So, you know, in my 3rd year at film production, I wrote a short feature set in the 90s rave scene, which is I think it was about 60 pages long. So instead of actually doing a final year film, I decided to write a full feature-length screenplay instead. Sorry, 90 pages, not 60 pages. So I wrote this script. It was the first time I'd ever written a feature screenplay. And it was like in hindsight, it's not a particularly great script. Like it was literally the first ever feature script that I'd written. So it was really just me sort of writing just an adventure. A bunch of young teens in the 90s go out to a rave and have a bit of an adventure, really going to this big rave party. That's really all that really was. And then because I wasn't making a final year film, because I decided to write this feature script instead of making a final year film, I decided, you know what, how about I try and make this script that I've written into a film? So then it became my ambition of my final
Very
year.
Ambitious.
Yeah, it became my ambition of my final year to make this sort of short feature set in the 90s rave scene. Now, obviously, the script was initially 90 pages, but I thought, you know, there's no way I'm going to be able to shoot a 90-minute film when I'm a university student. So I set sort of the target for 40 minutes to try and do like a 40-minute short feature runtime. So I adapted the script to a shorter runtime. So I sort of cut it down a bit and adapted it to a 40-page script. And then basically just started recruiting a cast and a crew together, using the free access to filming equipment. That obviously that was fantastic benefit of being a film student at Derby University, was having free access to high standard filming equipment. You know, a lot of equipment. Yeah. So then throughout like the second half of my final year at uni, I was just going all in making this film. It cost me quite a lot of money, but I wanted to do it because I felt like, you know, I felt like I'm not going to have another opportunity I might not ever have another opportunity to make a full length or to make quite a big ambitious film, because of how difficult it is to actually afford equipment once you've left uni. So when I've got free access to the equipment while I'm at uni, I may as well try and make something really big and ambitious. And I really liked the idea of challenging myself to see if I could shoot something set in the 90s. You know, that all the things you have to think about doing that. You have to be really careful with every location, make sure there's nothing in the background that shouldn't be there, that's too modern. Make sure you're not going to be shooting in the background where there might be modern cars coming by. And then there's a lot of like sourcing older cars, getting in touch with people that have older cars, paying them to drive up and let us use it for the shoot or whatever. Costumes, you know, shout out to Danny Drummond, Fred's pre-owned. He owns a fantastic retro clothes shop in Derby. Basically bought all the outfit for 20th Century Tribe from his shop. And yeah, so that was fantastic. Yeah, he's got a fantastic collection. That was a fantastic resource for the film.
Did you get that shirt from there?
Bit of a Derby song.
This shirt actually came all the way from Idaho in the US.
Yeah.
Because when I started getting into like the 90s rave scene and then started getting into the style, the fashion, I sort of decided I want to get like one of those shirts that they used to wear on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. You know, the old Will Smith show, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So I wanted like a shirt like this, a proper, really retro 90s style.
Very jazzy.
And so I was looking all over the internet for one, and the best one I could find was this one, secondhand, and it was sent over from Idaho in the US. So
it's all the different shapes.
Yeah, that's what I like. I like all the funky shapes. Yeah.
Give it that Fresh Prince edge. Different coloured shapes. I love that shit.
So yeah, that was that was the short feature. It ended up coming out at 30 minutes. So like I wanted to try and make a 40-minute short feature, but obviously it's very ambitious making such a big ambitious film at the student level, even if you do have free access to equipment.
Yeah.
So it ended up coming out as a 30-minute runtime. I mean, it is something that I'm immensely proud of. In hindsight, it wasn't as well written as it could have been because I wrote and shot it before doing my MA in screenwriting. So essentially, I did my MA in screenwriting after doing this big ambitious film, and realized that I'd made loads of mistakes with the script. You know, that the script didn't have particularly great narrative structure. But at the same time, it's still an achievement to have done such a big ambitious film, 30-minute runtime, set in like it's a period obviously, but recent period, like set in the 90s.
I remember being on Collision and being like kind of amazed at how many people there were running around doing stuff.
Yeah, so
at student level, it's hard to get like 5 people to kind of fucking stay on focus.
Yeah, to be fair, I will admit, like, a part of the reason I had quite a lot of people on my films is because I was drawn to the ambition of trying to like emulate the big movie producers, the people who make the big films. So the film Wes was just mentioning was Collision, which was the film I made after my second year and before my third year. So that was a year before 20th Century Tribe, which again, it was quite an ambitious one, a 20-minute long film shot over the course of one weekend. And yeah, I mean, basically, yeah, the reason I had quite a lot of people on that film, in hindsight, I think I had maybe too many people on it, but it's just because I was feeling like really ambitious and
Collision.
And I just wanted to make.
We did have a lot of people
film that made me feel like a big proper filmmaker. You know,
we had people making sandwiches.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun.
I think a lot of people on screen as well, weren't there?
Oh yeah,
at certain times as well. So, did the people that work like behind the scenes also double up as people in front of the camera as well?
Is this Collision? Or are we going back to 20th Century Tribe?
Collision.
I'm sure Collision. I was in it as a dancer, wasn't I?
Yeah, pretty much. You know, a lot of the people who worked on the film were in it, especially for the nightclub scene. Basically, any of the crew that were helping us out on the nightclub scene were in front of the camera as well, just to be there as an extra, really. Yeah, and it's a similar thing with 20th Century Tribe. I mean, if you actually pay attention to the closing credits of 20th Century Tribe, certain people like you, Jeff, your name's on the credits 5 times, I think, for 5 different roles, including obviously an extra, and then like I think there's 4 crew roles: a producer, editor, and colorist and stuff like that. And busy what was that? Sorry,
busy bee.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
You were carrying it, weren't you, Jeff?
No,
it was all
so many.
Jeff
did
was
so many roles. Did so many roles. He was like,
yeah.
How many roles did you have, Joe? Because writer, director, producer,
actor,
yeah, well? Yeah. So writer, director, producer. I had a small speaking role, which I don't really consider myself an actor. It's just because I was an extra in the film and I was playing one of. There's a guy called Jack Barry, the character that Jack Barry plays, whose name's Jack. So Jack Barry played Jack. I was playing one of Jack's friends, and so there was just a small scene where I just had to have a little bit of dialogue. And then editor, so writer, director, producer, small speaking role, editor, that's 5. Costume procurement, costume procurement, and then also set dressing for the opening scene, which is set in the main character's bedroom, so that's 7. There might be another one. I can't remember, but yeah. So at least 7 roles anyway.
That's a lot of fucking roles.
So a lot of the people in the credits for 20th Century Tribe are also credited as ravers or as extras, you know, or credited for 3 or 4 crew roles. So yeah, it's quite a lot of like using our crew to double them up as extras, basically.
Yeah. Very nice. I like that kind of. Oh my god, are you seeing this?
Is that Louie about on the ground?
Yeah. Holy shit. What a beautiful boy.
It's interesting when you look at films that say Night of the Living Dead, and a lot of the actors in that like the makeup artist was the mother of the kid in the basement. The first assistant camera was like the first zombie that we saw in the film.
Right.
So there's quite a lot of people doubling up on that as that sort
that kind of filmmaking. It feels more like a collaborative labor of love. You know, when everyone's like kind of pitching in and just like having fun.
Yeah. And then you look back at it and you're like, hey, that's me, that is.
Yeah.
Even if it's in the background.
Yeah, that's something I respect about George A. Romero's films, actually. Like Dawn of the Dead. Apparently the community, you know, all banded together very enthusiastically to contribute, you know, to Dawn of the Dead. And you know, apparently the community were very supportive of it. From what I've heard, you know, that they just thought it was really cool that their sort of town was being used to shoot this film. And I think that's really cool. I like that. And it's also, I just in like a superficial level, I suppose, I enjoy like putting my friends in front of the camera as well. It's just kind of cool to like put the crew in front of the camera so they're extras, so they're in the movie as well. It's just kind of like a cool little novelty, I suppose.
Yeah. Nice to see them. It's like an Easter egg, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's also just incredibly helpful, because if your crew are also doubling up as extras when they're not doing crew things, then you don't need to get extras to be extras, because the crew can be the extras and the extras can be the crew. So, and
you save a lot of money.
Like travel and
a lot of money,
feeding people.
Bloody hell, £5 a head for food, or it can be, you can cut that in half.
Or for travel, like
fucking expensive, man.
Depending where you are, like, because I was just trying to think of some of the places we filmed in. Was it Ilkeston?
Yeah, so the pub that we filmed the rave scene at, I know. So the rave scene was filmed at a dance venue behind the pub, basically. It's called Seven Oaks Inn Bar and Restaurant. That's just outside of Ilkeston, yeah.
And that external bit of that warehouse.
Yeah,
as well.
From there,
yeah. So seem to have I seem to remember it was we filmed there, and then after a while, we looked over and there was this security van just sort of like cruising up. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Do you remember Jeffrey? Did you work on Collision?
No, a bit before my time,
mate. We had swingers. We had doggers show up. Do you remember, Joe?
Yeah, I do.
Oh my god!
On the night shoot on Collision was actually really fun. There was a lot of us there all night.
Oh, it's great. Yeah.
It was a really challenging shoot, the whole thing, because I know we're sort of going off topic. We're supposed to be talking about 20th Century Tribe, but yeah. So for Collision, you know, we kind of shot. We shot like some daytime scenes on the Saturday night, and then went and shot the nightclub scene at night, and then we shot daytime scenes on Sunday, and then shot the night scene in the car park all night. So basically, me at least, and some of the other main people who had main roles in the film, either as actors or as crew, you know, a lot of us didn't really get much sleep. We just pretty much daytime scenes on the Saturday, nightclub scene, daytime scenes on the Sunday, and then all night on the car park. And we had to keep rotating the batteries for the lights as well. So every time a battery was about to run out for the lights for the outdoor scene, we had to have one of the drivers drive back to the house, pick up a fresh battery from charge, and put the other battery on charge. So it can constantly rotate in the batteries, so that we always had charged ones at the car park where we were shooting, and then had the other ones charging at home. And yeah, there was people driving into the car park, parking in corners of the car park, and sort of having a bit of a fun time amongst themselves as well. So yeah, and some police came up and made me momentarily panic that they were going to shut down the shoot, but they were actually looking for somebody who was in a spot of danger. So
yeah, it was fucking nuts, the amount of weird stuff that happened in that one night in Markeaton Park.
Yeah, to be honest, it's probably all every night.
Swingers.
Right, Markeaton Park is very notable for that sort of stuff.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm filming a film Scorched Earth, and like we're filming in the woods, like during the day, and then the sun starts to set. So you go back into the car, and there's a car park, and then it's like, all right, okay, get in the car, turn the headlights on, and you see this guy in the driver's seat just look at you, deer in the headlights, panicking. And then like a couple of seconds later, you see a woman just like get up. Like I guess she must have been like tying his shoelaces or something. That's very thoughtful of her. But then she looked up, also panicked, and then like a couple of seconds later they just drove off. So
they were probably scared that they had been caught. They had been caught driving without his shoelaces tied.
I know it's
what it was. Yeah,
very severe offence.
It's a very common occurrence in Derbyshire for some reason.
Yeah. people parking without their shoelaces tied and having their passenger tie them for them. Yeah.
At least he had someone to tie shoelaces for him, so that's all good. So yeah, go back to 20th Century Tribe.
Yeah. So yeah, I've talked about the short feature. I mean, it was. I think it was perhaps too ambitious a project in some ways, because I ended up using. I ended up sort of. I think because it was so ambitious, it perhaps didn't really fit into into any particular category. So like it was too long to enter as a short film, but it's too short to enter as a short feature.
Yeah.
So I ended up not really being able to do much with it on like the festival
more of a pilot
circuit.
length, that isn't it?
What was that? Sorry.
More like along the lines of like a pilot length.
Yeah. So I wasn't able to do much with it in festival circuit really, but to be honest, my main intention in making the film was the experience of doing it, was the principle of making a really big ambitious film while I still had free access to the filming equipment. And like a learning experience and a fun experience. And just to be able to say that I did it, I shot a really big film set in the 90s rave scene. Everyone's got these really cool outfits. There's like retro cars in it and stuff. You know, so, and you know, the music, the rave scene, which was the most fun I've ever had on a film shoot. That was incredible. It's just really fun. But I have actually skipped a stage. I've skipped the proof of concept short. So the proof of concept short is a short film that we shot about a couple months, 3 months before shooting the short feature. So when I was conceptualizing shooting this short feature, I decided to have like a practice run. So we booked out the rave venue for the first shoot, this proof of concept rave scene, just to like practice it, to see how it works, to shoot this rave scene, and you know, to see just I guess how well it works, or if it would work, you know. So I cast roles for that. Unfortunately, I think we shot it like on Mother's Day or on Father's Day or something. So there was quite a few people unavailable. And then also one of our main actors, a guy called Danny Patrick, who was playing Brett, he came down with awful flu, so he couldn't do that rave.
Oh no, not Danny.
We also had a guy called Owen Warner who played Jack. So he got the role Jack. He initially wanted the role Hood. This was for the proof of concept short. This actor called Owen Warner, you know, he initially wanted the role of Hood, but I felt like he wasn't really right for that role. I felt like Jack was the role that he was really right for, and I remember he was kind of disappointed he didn't get to play Hood, but he was very enthusiastic to play Jack. He was really into the project. He was really enthusiastic about it. So the day we were shooting the proof of concept rave scene, Owen Warner had an audition for Hollyoaks, the soap Hollyoaks. So the day that we shot the rave scene, he had just come back from his audition for Hollyoaks. I seem to remember him saying that, you know, I don't think I'm probably not going to get it. Anyway, so he was in the rave scene. He was incredibly enthusiastic, you know, a fantastic contributor in that rave scene. And then shortly after the rave scene, we found out that he had been cast by Hollyoaks. So we lost him. So it's kind of an interesting sort of novelty, because like it's kind of a fun novelty that Owen Warner, who has since gone on to be a main cast member on Hollyoaks, he still is today. And recently, just late last year, he competed on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. He came second on that. And you know, he's got this like little role as essentially an extra in the proof of concept short, which was initially supposed to be a speaking role, but by the time we came to shoot the speaking role, we'd already lost him to Hollyoaks. So he's basically just an extra in the rave scene. But it's really cool. It's just great, and it's great.
He had a voiceover,
because I have spoken to him since he's been on Hollyoaks, and it's great to have that sort of potential contact, you know, there. So but yeah, so basically, after we shot the rave scene for the proof of concept, I sort of looked at it and thought, this is cool, but I don't really know if I can really do anything with it. It needs more of a narrative structure, you know. So I decided to write a little sort of scene set in a pub about them before they go to the rave. So this was several weeks after shooting this first rave scene. We then went to this little pub and we sort of shot a dialogue scene, just characters playing pool, and then sort of talking about the rave that they're going off to. Then we shot an outdoor car park scene of the main cast sort of getting into this. Is it late 1980s Vauxhall Nova, I think, or was it early 90s? Quite an older, it was late 80s or early 90s Vauxhall Nova.
They all look like
really, really lovely car. It was basically a guy that I met on Facebook in a car sort of appreciation group, in a retro car group, and spoke to him. Basically, I put a post out asking if anyone who has sort of a retro car, ideally a Vauxhall Nova, because that's one of my favorite retro cars. If anyone would be willing to let us use their car in exchange for a bit of a fee, so we paid him a bit of money, he let us use his Nova, which was awesome. So the proof of concept film was basically just a pub scene, car park scene, and then the rave scene. And then from there, we then went on to do the proof of concept. From the proof of concept, we then went on to do the full length short. I'll start again. Right. From the proof of concept, we went on to do the short feature after the proof of concept. And that's the short feature that I was speaking about before. So, yeah.
I guess it's for all these adaptations, it's been like kind of gradually finding itself, hasn't it?
Yeah,
I'd say, and I think, I think it's a self-discovering kind of world you got going on. Each time it comes back thicker.
Yeah, that's true. That's an apt statement. Yeah. It's constantly growing. It's constantly growing.
Like a snowball rolling it down the hill.
Full of characters.
Yeah, and so something that you said earlier, Wes, about it being more like a pilot is now on reflection, since I've decided to try and develop the 20th Century Tribe basic sort of concepts, the premise. Now that I've tried to adapt, now that I'm sort of working to adapt that into a television pilot that I want to put a pitch portfolio together for and pitch to producers and try and get commissioned. Now that I'm doing that, looking back at the short feature has been helpful to sort of look at that as sort of a proof of concept pilot. And it's something to build on, but it's also, I sort of look at it and reflect on like how I could make it better. Like the proof of concept, the short feature film is, it's sort of quite a technical achievement, but it needs development it would need development to be more of a comedy, because we're trying to sort of make the television concept sort of a comedy genre, comedy drama sort of hybrid, like comedy drama hybrid.
It's got much more comedic kind of tone. Kind of tries to revel in the filth of the 90s.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
like a dog in the muck. I think.
Yeah. So we're sort of adapting the short feature idea into a sort of television pilot and sort of making it more of a comedy, because the film wasn't really a comedy. It was more of just a slice of life sort of little kind of dramatic, kind of fun snippet.
Mumblecore. Have you ever seen Mumblecore stuff?
Oh, I've heard that, but I don't really know what it means.
It's basically it's kind of like slice of life stuff as well, but it's kind of very like subtle, like free flowing kind of stuff where kind of a lot of the conversations are kind of like understated,
right?
And, like more like decorative. The conversations are more like decorative than they are like plot drivers,
Yeah.
Like Boogie Nights has got like dialogue like that, I think.
That's quite a significant influence of mine. Boogie Nights, it's my favorite film. So
it's a bloody banger.
Yeah, I love that film.
I need to watch it again, because I saw like half of it, not like half of like the first half, the second half, but more just like bits and pieces. So I've got an incomplete sort of. And
you missed one of the greatest scenes of the whole film, which is a scene where William H. Macy's character does something really dramatic.
It's great. Get yourself your favorite snack, favorite drink, shut the curtains and just soak it all in.
Okay.
It's such a it demands your attention. I think.
I remember it's got a good soundtrack.
It's fun because you can kind of pop it on in a group environment, but I guess like after the midpoint, the film takes a big dramatic dive, and you kind of need that's the half of the film where everyone in the room needs to be like, oh man, pay attention to this bit.
Yeah, it's kind of like a party film, but just for the first half of the film, you know. It's like a really fun party film for the first half, and then it becomes really dark and kind of disturbing.
I love that. It completes it. It really completes it. Yeah, no. I think it suits. I think 20th Century Tribe suits a television series format a lot better because having that. I think the thing about making a film is that it's got to be very tightly wound. It might not feel like a short amount of time, but you've kind of got a short amount of time to explore everything you want to explore, tell the story you want to tell. But the kind of thing 20th Century Tribe is it's more of like a relaxed and like free flowing kind of story, I think. And I think it benefits from being a TV series because then you really get to spend a lot of time with these characters because it's like a hangout thing, isn't it? Yeah, it's like a hangout simulator in a way.
Yeah, I am really into those sort of casual sort of slice of life type films. Like I kind of like. I mean, I guess some of my favorite films. Boogie Nights is my favorite film. Dazed and Confused is a fantastic example. That's one of my favorite films. Is one of my main influences for my style of writing and filmmaking.
It all made sense.
Yeah,
when I watched Dazed and Confused.
Yeah, because like Dazed and Confused kind of was such a great inspiration. It's so inspirational to me because when I watched that film, it almost made me realize like you don't need to have a really, really strong conventional narrative structure to make a great film. Like Dazed and Confused is essentially just about a bunch of 1970s teenagers partying and sort of enjoying almost like the last glimmer of their innocent youth before they leave high school, you know. It doesn't really have like a strong story, but it's really more about like the feeling, like the atmosphere and the people, and it almost feels more of like an emotional. Would you call it more of an emotional film and less of a logical film in sense? The narrative's perhaps more emotional than logical.
I think there's a very loose coming of age thing going on that you can that you can follow and get some narrative sustenance out of in the end.
Yeah, and then another one's American Honey. American Honey is a really similar thing. It's almost more like an in-depth character study, or you just sort of delve in. It's almost like you delve all the way in. You go all into these characters' lives, to their world for like 2 hours, and then you come back out of it. You know, so that appeals to me more than having like a conventional narrative structure that hits all the narrative beats. You know, I'm much more into the idea of going all into an ensemble of colorful characters' worlds, you know, going all into their world.
It's quite Harmony Korine-ish, I think.
Getting immersed in that world. Yeah, that's a good comparison. Yeah. I've only seen Spring Breakers, but again, similar thing. There wasn't really a strong narrative in that film. But it was just really a really strong sense of atmosphere and feeling.
Oh yeah, massively.
Like the place, the time, the people, you know.
You should watch is it Gummo?
Gummo, is that Harmony Korine?
Yeah, have you seen Gummo? Is it Gummo? Jeffro, have you seen it?
I haven't. What's it about?
It's again, it's like really. I mean, I haven't properly seen. I've only seen clips. I need to watch it, but I've seen. It's basically. I'm pretty sure it's just about like this, like, really low income town in America that's kind of dealing with like the aftermath of a hurricane. I don't know if that's what actually has happened. That's what I've heard's happened. But there is this one scene in it that's disgusted me. It's absolutely rancid. It's this scene where he's in the bath. It's like this little kid called Gummer. I don't know if the little kid's called Gummer. This little kid's in the bath. And his mum brings his dinner up and he eats it while he's in the bath. And the bath water's like dirty. It's like brown dirt. and he eats his spaghetti, and he's like dropping little bits in the bath while he's eating it, and it's like fucking, oh, it's so gross. And then she gives him a chocolate bar, and he drops that in the bath and eats that, and goes back. He eats his spaghetti and his chocolate bar at the same time. It's I don't know. I can't explain it.
I thought you were going to go somewhere else with that.
It's just like really gross. It's the thing is, it's like not. It doesn't sound that bad, but like when you watch it, like it's such a smelly looking film.
Mm.
The film looks like it smells, and when he's in that bath and like the room's gross and cluttered and the water's like grey. It's like basically, and he's just eating that big old messy plate of spaghetti. He's like, fucking hell. I don't know. It changes a man.
Yeah, it sounds bad to me. It sounds. I know what you mean. I can't think of the exact example, but I have seen films that make me feel a bit revolted like that.
Yeah,
when it's something like I can't really remember what film. I guess American Honey again. Actually, there is a scene early on in the film where there's these impoverished kids that the main character's sort of babysitting, and they're just in this grungy, pathetic, really nasty, unclean, unkempt kitchen, and the kids don't have any food. And they've at the start of the film, these young kids with the babysitter. The babysitter's essentially been helping the kids get food from a massive bin, from a massive dumpster, and then take it home, like food that people have thrown out, shops have thrown out. Take it home, and then anyway, in the kitchen, there's this scene of the young lad who is about maybe 4 years old, and I think he's got he's got a chicken or something that's wrapped. It's a wrapped chicken, and he's like trying to break open the packaging. I can't remember like in detail, but it's got like a similar feel, like a really not nice kind of grimy.
Sounds like the kind
of feel to it. This young lad trying to break open a chicken in a kitchen because he's not being looked after properly.
Jesus, yeah, that is quite sad.
Yeah,
that is quite sad. That's the kind of vibe I want to go for with this as well. Not quite that gross, but just I don't know, just like not flinch away from, like what it's like to be like living in a less fortunate time, and also living like pound to pound.
Yeah.
It does create this like environment, basically like its own like subculture. But I don't know. I don't want to like. I don't want to vilify the working class or make it look like all they do is eat their own shit. Because I am one of them. I can't go doing that, but you can have some fun with I think.
There's also the empathy that you see someone doing that. You see someone in such like destitute circumstances, and if you're not a Dickensian sociopath, like you're gonna feel
you're gonna feel a little bit, something at least.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't, there's probably something wrong with you. But you see people, and it's not as if you're gonna vilify people for that. But when you look at that kid, like that kid is, I assume that kid is just like naive. That's the only life that they've experienced. So
and he can't go and get a job yet.
No.
Oh boy,
it's illegal, child labor.
Yeah,
fucking workers' rights to blame for that.
So
kids can't even get jobs.
20th Century Tribe TV show.
Yeah.
So as we stand now, where does 20th Century Tribe? Yeah, sorry. What does 20th Century Tribe stand now?
Okay, so I wrote a pilot script for 20th Century Tribe as a TV show. I wrote that late last year. We did a reading in September, so we went to Nottingham Theatre to do a reading. Just in a little room they had, just rented out a little room they have at Nottingham Theatre, just to do a reading with some friends. Obviously, you two were there yourself.
Good day.
So, that went pretty well. And then Wes, I was able to sort of persuade Wes to jump on the project with me, because I really wanted Wes to jump on the project with me, because I think, like, while I have strengths as a writer, I also have weaknesses as a writer. And I think Wes has Wes's strengths as a writer
Yes.
complement my weaknesses, you know. So yeah, Wes is developing essentially his take on the script. So he's sort of taking my script and sort of rewriting it with his ideas, and then he's going to send it back to me, and then I'm going to sort of fine tune it.
Yeah.
And then from there, we're going to put together a pitch portfolio. So a portfolio that we want to use to pitch to producers, looking at production houses to pitch to. And the idea is the long-term goal is to partner with a producer and then hopefully get to a point where we can pitch it to Channel 4. Channel 4 is the main objective that we want to pitch it to. That I feel like they're the best suited network to this concept.
Yeah, big time.
And I do have a few other connections. You know, I have a sort of loose connection to someone who I have a loose connection to someone who has family that is high up in Netflix, for example. So like I have these connections that I need to sort of try and utilize as well, sort of try to best utilize. So the objective really is just to put together as good a pitch portfolio, as good a script, pilot script as possible, you know, and try and pitch it, get it out to as many different avenues that are a possibility for it to get commissioned. And then also the trailer. So the trailer is something that we're planning to shoot this summer. And that's the purpose of that, is to basically have a film that corresponds directly to the pilot. Because obviously the film that I shot a few years ago, that is an early sort of idea of what has evolved into the TV pilot that I've written now. So now that I've written this pilot, I want to shoot a short trailer for the pilot. So it'll be a maybe 2-3 minute trailer, to sort of 2-3 minutes at the most anyway. That sort of, it basically just gives a snapshot of what the pilot's going to be. Essentially a trailer, like you would see a trailer for a new TV show. So the idea is for it to be a trailer that makes people want to watch it. So if I have people who see the trailer and actually actively want to watch it, that gives me more ammunition to help it get commissioned. Because if I'm pitching it to producers and networks and saying, well, the trailer's been posted online and people actually want to see the TV show already, you know, then I feel like that's going to help a lot with getting it commissioned.
Yeah, so I'd say we're currently just getting it into its first pitchable form.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, basically, yeah.
We're that's kind of where we are at the moment, I believe. Getting all the eggs in the right basket.
Yeah.
So what would you if say someone's listening and they have an idea and they want to try to pitch it to someone, what advice would you give them in order to make it pitchable, or to put it into a pitchable form, as you say?
For me, you kind of, I feel like it depends on who you're pitching to. They all have different requirements and different demands. I don't know, you know more about this than I do, Joe. I'm more the creative man. I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, so I mean, I have some knowledge of how the pitch portfolio works. I mean, obviously, you've got your pilot script in there if you're doing television. I don't really know as much about pitching for films. To be honest, I don't really have any ambition in cinema anymore. My ambition is entirely in television. I say that, I mean, I kind of like the idea of maybe doing something in film later if TV works. But anyway, so yeah, with regards to doing a pitching for television, so you've got your pilot script, and then you want to have like your sort of narrative structure, your narrative outline for the first episode. That's going to be a part of your portfolio, and then you're going to have a sort of rough narrative idea for several other episodes. From the research I've done, I believe that networks want to see that you have some sort of structured idea, not necessarily too structured, but just some kind of rough structure that formulates ideas for several episodes after the pilot that you pitch in.
They want to know how it's going to look, don't they?
Yeah, so possibly a framework for one season at least. And then the treatment's a big thing. So obviously you need to write a treatment which goes with the pilot episode. Treatment is basically a document that sort of it explains or details, if you like, for potential producers or for people that are looking at the pitch portfolio. So for producers, it details everything that happens in the pilot. So essentially, you tell the person that's reading the treatment, you tell them everything that happens in the episode. So it's essentially, it's similar. Obviously, it's very similar to the script, but it's not. It doesn't really have the dialogue. It's more just telling them what happens, like almost sort of describing all the plot points, and sort of communicating the sort of the theme and the style and the feeling and the atmosphere of it as well. I think that's my understanding of a treatment anyway. To be honest, it might be a bit rusty because I've been focusing so much on script writing that I've actually not done a treatment in a while. So when I do come to write the treatment for this pilot, I'm going to have to get back into that and refresh my memory on exactly how a treatment should work. And then, so you're going to have character profiles as well. Presumably that'll be a part of your portfolio.
I'd say I'd actually say that depends on what kind of a following you've got online, but a lot of shows and that just films and artists in general now actually find funding through finding success on their own terms, like by publishing their works to the internet. So I'd say another thing is if you've got a decent number of people following you, whip together that first episode or a proof of concept or something, and the option's always there to put it up. And the thing is, if you put it online, it gets enough views. That's your market research done. They know people are gonna like this thing. They don't need like a room. They don't need a room full of suits to figure that out. They know it's a tangible dream. You see a lot of things these days being made through that means. A lot of like new artists and writers and animators being discovered because of popularity on the internet. I had a friend recently tell me some statistics about I don't know, I think this is either book publishing or it might be screenplay publishing. Basically it's something like they only look at your script if you've got an agent, and something like there's like 40,000 agent represented scripts a year in the UK. So the numbers are like, whoa, they're big. They're big and they're scary and they're against you. So I don't know. It depends on which avenue you want to go down, really. But the main thing is like confidence in your idea. And do you believe it all? Do you believe it'll work? Do you think it'll go far? You're either right or I don't know. You're wrong, but fuck knows. I don't know. As long as you care, I think it translates in your work if you care about what you're making.
I think I've definitely heard that about agents.
Scary, isn't it?
Not just heard that, I found it from my research. So as far as my understanding is, a lot of the British networks like BBC and Channel 4, for example, if you want to get some traction with them, you kind of need, if you're unrepresented, and you want to get something sort of recognized by Channel 4 or BBC, it almost feels like maybe one of the only ways to do it is enter into one of their competitions. So the competitions for unrepresented writers. Whereas if you're actually trying to get something commissioned, you need to have either agency representation or be partnered with a production house, which it's a similar sort of thing. I guess from my research on Channel 4, it's specifically production house. It appears that they want you to actually have a producer on board on your team representing your project before they'll consider it for commissioning. So that really is the next stage, is to put the pitch portfolio together, make this trailer, and try and find a reputable production house to represent us. That's
someone who digs it enough, gets
that's the next goal.
Nice.
And then from there, hopefully take it to television networks.
I think it's got kind of like a lot of appeal to what producers are would be looking for, especially like Channel 4 ones.
Yeah, Yeah,
or just like people that represent that kind of like demographic.
Yeah, it's something I feel really passionate about. Like it's my life's dream. My life's ambition is to get this television show commissioned and get it made so that it's being seen by people all over the country. That's my number one goal in life. If I achieve that too soon, then I might be sort of lost and questioning what's my goal in life now. But that is my goal at the moment. At the moment, that's all I want. So yeah, I have this very, I guess I have a sense of conviction that I know this will be a big hit. I know it will be a huge hit if it gets in front of the right people, gets commissioned and gets made for British television. There's a few reasons I say that. One of which is the nostalgia factor. Nostalgia is hugely popular right now. There's a good market for sort of nostalgic television and stuff like that. Stranger Things, they're doing that 90s show now, which, by the way, I saw something posted on social media about how many errors there are in that 90s show with regards to them having things in the background that are way too modern, like posters, things to do with bands and stuff like that didn't even exist in the 90s. And it kind of annoys me because it's like, this show's been commissioned, it's on Netflix, it's a professional show, and they're making really basic errors, like having things in the background that shouldn't even exist in the 90s. And when I think the extent that I go to with my research, I have a playlist that I listen to when I'm working on 20th Century Tribe, and no songs released after the middle of 1996, which is when the first episode set, are allowed on that playlist. That's just the music that I listen to when I'm working on it. I don't allow myself to listen to any music that came out after that time when I'm working on it. So yeah, it's kind of annoying because obviously this professional show is making errors like that, and I'm like trying really hard to make, like, I have this passionate conviction that if I was doing it, there's no way I would allow anything like that to I'm even doing research on when certain films came out in the UK. So if a film, just because a film says 1996 on IMDb, it might have come out in 97 in the UK. So I'm doing research to make sure that any film that might get referenced or anything, it has to have actually been seen in the UK. Real. So yeah, I'm very, very, very strict on the research side of things.
I think making something that takes place in the 90s is I don't know. I've kind of found a newfound interest in it because it's like the last gasp of an internetless culture. Like, I never had the internet, but it really was like the last decade to feel like it took place in the real world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then after that, I know, like, yeah, they had it, but like it really increased in the 2000s. And now that feels like an alien time. It feels like a totally different time and place. Like, just Google Maps alone. Imagine not having Google Maps.
Oh dear. Get your audience survey map, which is
getting your map. Yeah, getting your map
massive.
Out. Fucking going through it, and you didn't go to Scouts, so you don't know how to read it. And
which way's north again?
It's crazy, like, to think that. But like, the 90s, like the people then had no idea like what was about to kind of wash over them. This big tidal wave of tech and fucking just all sorts of shit. Yeah, it had its problems in its own way, but yeah. I guess it's quite a naive decade, really. Totally unaware of how much the world we're going to change when we hit the 2000.
Yeah, that's really insightful. Actually, that's a really interesting insight.
Yeah,
Jeff, is the meeting about to end or something, yeah. Jeff?
No. I got a question.
All right, sorry. I thought, yeah, okay.
Ooh.
Yeah. So yawning. Speaking for someone who's born in the late 90s, I can't really call myself a 90s kid, can I? Oh, I'm a 90s kid. I was born in 1998.
96.
Yeah, 96. I think for you guys, it's 90s baby, noughties kid. Noughties being the 2 noughts, the 3 noughts. Well, 2 noughts.
I got no memories of the 90s at all.
I
got memories of having 90s consoles because we didn't have a 2000s one yet, but that's about it.
I remember 2001. I remember 9/11.
Wait, you remember 9/11?
Well, around that time, like, I remember being on a plane shortly afterwards, which was my first experience, and
yeah.
Very, very, very blurry because of being that
old. Are you sure you weren't one who did it?
I wasn't there.
Shortly afterwards, eh?
To the best of my knowledge, 3-year-old me was nowhere in that part of the world.
Not responsible for 9/11. Shit. I'll wait to see the evidence, but that's all right.
All right. My question being that, me personally, I can't say I have any experience of the 90s. Yeah, I know people around my age, do have sort of like nostalgia for the 90s, or even earlier. So, can you really have nostalgia for a time that you haven't lived in?
I think you can, but it's a weird thing. It's almost like secondhand nostalgia or like vicarious nostalgia, maybe. So, like for example, some like 70s things make me feel nostalgic. But I don't really. I was never in the 70s, so I guess what I'm describing, what the feeling I'm having is something I'm describing as nostalgia. But maybe it's just a case of me misappropriating.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just calling something that's something else. I'm calling it nostalgia.
I think the word nostalgia is thrown around a lot, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is a very, or at least it was a very specific kind of inexplicable feeling.
Yeah, I mean, for me, when I talk about nostalgia for the 70s, I suppose I'm just thinking more about a fondness for the 70s. Like I think some of the fashion was really interesting. I'm not into the flares. It's more like the colors, sort of the patterns. They had some pretty cool shirts and stuff like that. 70s cars, I think, are amazing. And the music, great music and stuff like that. Hey. So it's more like a fondness for like the I can't think of the word. A fondness for the style and the things that were popular in the 70s. It's a fondness for that sort of, I guess, feels like nostalgia because it's a long time ago and it's a long time in the past. And yeah, I don't know if it actually is nostalgia, if it just feels.
I think that a lot of what we think is nostalgia, for times that we didn't really live in.
Yeah,
I think a lot of it's like some form of jealousy,
Yeah,
like some mild form of jealousy. Because like not like in a bitter way, but like I wish I had that kind of way.
Yeah.
But because like it's always, I don't know, it's always in relation to the people at the time who were experiencing it and like kind of wishing that you were like in their shoes, or at least like for some of the time when we're calling it nostalgia. I think that's what it is. Because like on the loose definition of nostalgia, I've got nostalgia for the fucking Neanderthals because I really, do you know what I mean? Well, all I know is that there was a point in human history where all we did was kind of move and live and like just kind of live day to day, not worrying about anything else other than their own survival. And the simplicity of that lifestyle, I think a lot of people kind of yearn for now. The reject modernity, return to monkey kind of thing. There's a lot of, I feel like it's a meme, but it's like it's a big thing these days, I think, because we're starting to realize just how caged in we are. But it's kind of, I don't know, it's weird that you can feel that for a generation that's so alien to you. Just because you know what it was like, and you're sad that you can never have it. I think it's a little bit of jealousy there, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. I think people have a tendency to idealize memories, I guess, or the more distant something becomes into the past, the more distant a memory or a time becomes, the more removed you come from it.
It becomes fantastical, doesn't it?
Yeah. I feel like you remember all the good bits, and so I think people maybe sort of idealize these past decades, because they had this interest in fashion and music, and people were more connected. I think personally, I have a feeling that communities and society was better connected, ironically, before. Like it's almost like people more spiritually connected, more connected in like a sense of community than they are now. Back then, they were more connected in that sense, but now people are more connected in a very literal sense. Like you can look up your old school friends. You know, you can talk to your best mate from school when you're in your 40s or whatever.
Doesn't really mean as much
halfway
anymore,
across the world.
doesn't? You know, like back in the day, say you go to school with this lad called Biscoff or something. Say you go to school with this lad called Biscoff. And you leave school. You don't see him for 20 years, and then you bump into him again in pub, and you have this very long chat about you find out about what he's been doing, he finds about what you've been doing, you live in each other's shoes spiritually for an hour, then you go your separate ways, and you're going to remember that night for the rest of your life. But now it's like, if I meet Biscoff again, I know he's had 2 kids, I know he's fucking racist, I know all this shit about him. Like, it's so frustrating, really, that like, we're just constantly connected with each other all the time. There's like no space to breathe.
But yeah, it almost maybe feels like TMI as well. Like you have too much information about them. Like, and then what you do is you compare yourself to people that you're at school with, because the people I was at school with are doing this, they're doing that, and I'm not doing that yet. Or but then again, I'm doing this and they're not doing that. So I'm you kind of think, oh, this is what I'm doing that my school friends aren't doing, but then this is what they're doing that I'm not doing.
And fear of missing out, isn't it? Like FOMO, yeah. Like it's almost as if like everyone on social media, most people like put out the best version of themselves out. Like everything on social media always has to look sexy, always has to look cool. Like, oh, look at this selfie I took, and then you look at yourself in the mirror, it's like, I don't look so good, and then you feel bad about it.
You know, the unsung heroes of social media are
what?
It's like the people who like don't know how to take a picture, and they only ever post when they're feeling depressed and stuff like that.
Or the whole the boomer Facebook profile.
Yeah,
it's just like taken at the bottom left corner of the screen.
Train wreck Snapchat stories.
Oh no!
It's like a 40-minute chronicle of someone's mental breakdown, and that's like that's social media right there. That's real. That's what people are actually. That's what people are actually like. Their lives aren't perfect, and I like as horrible or cringy as it is to see that.
I think social media
it's better for you up here to see that than it is to see.
I think it's bad for mental health. Social media. I think it's had a detrimental effect on. I would say on a generation worth of people's mental health. Probably more than a generation. Even people in like my parents' generation also use social media a lot. You know. So
it's going backwards.
Yeah,
like it's passed up the generations. It's supposed to be passed down.
It's like a rash.
It's not particularly healthy because people compare themselves to everyone. They see the best. It's almost like everybody's social media presence is a billboard advertisement for what's so good about them. You know.
Yeah.
And so you only see all the great stuff, and so it's probably quite likely that a lot of people feel very similar. So a lot of people look at their friends. Look at their friends' social media profiles and feel that almost perhaps feel inferior compared to their friends, and their friends are thinking the same way about them because everybody's just showing the billboard advertisement, the highlights.
It's just a big circle of shit in it.
Yeah, so I think that's a lot of the reason I have fondness for the 90s, and I remember it as a kid, like I said, I was born in 91 basically, so I remember most of the 90s, and I remember I feel like community wasn't I feel like communities aren't as connected now as they used to be then, which I said earlier. But that might I'm open to the possibility that I sort of have a biased take on that, because maybe I just felt better connected when I was a kid. My parents were still together when I was a kid, so that changed, and then when I was a kid I had more free time, and I guess children just generally are better connected anyway. So it may be like I'm sure there is an element of truth in the advancement of technology has sort of made people less connected in some ways, while more connected in a literal sense. I'm sure there is some truth in that, but I also think some of it is probably just, perhaps as you grow older and become an adult, you become less connected as well, because you have much more stress, much more like things in your life that stress you out. You know, things that you have to focus on. You kind of can't be a kid anymore. You can't just do fun stuff all the time. You have to pay the bills, and you have to have a job, and you have to, you know, work so many hours to afford cost of living and everything. So
I think the issue now is that we're too connected. And
yeah,
and the thing is, we're basically, what it is like social media connection is like it's like toast. Fills you up, but like, you know, if you can't eat toast fucking 10 meals in a row, you'll blow your brains out. Whereas meeting up in person and like having those kind of like raw, natural connections, that's like, it's a much healthier meal. You know, there's vitamins there. It's colourful. It's red hot. It's on a big old plate. So yeah, we get more like interaction through social media, but it just doesn't like fucking cut it, does it? I mean, you know, you can spend all day in bed with the curtains closed, talking to people and scrolling on your phone. It won't make you happy. Or you can have one chat, one little conversation with someone outside the chippy, and you can walk away going, "Oh, he's nice. That were a good chat, wasn't it?" And it fills you up, fills your belly right up, doesn't it? I love it, I do.
Another thing with social media is you can spend several hours or several days just having a conversation, you know. Like the conversation doesn't flow because you're essentially
really
waiting ages for a response, you know.
Why can't we ever just say bye?
Yeah.
No. No one ever said, no one like on, you know, like when you're texting just says like, all right, I'm done now, bye.
So nothing's ever finished.
It's just one person decides when like they've replied enough. Or do you get that? Like if I'm in a chat and then like, I either get busy and then I forget that there's a chat going on and then remember like 2 days later, or our replies get like smaller and smaller. We've whittled the conversation down to a bare nub, and then we just both have this mutual agreement like, right, this is boring, goodbye. But we don't say bye. We don't say night or like that. We just fucking fade away. Come back again later.
Yeah, so see what you mean there. Like, because we don't have like that definite end, do we ever turn off? Are we always on?
No. Yeah,
because it's our phone that's always connected to the internet.
When's it gonna go off again? Yeah,
I know, it's almost as if like the internet has become an extension of yourself.
Yeah,
that instead of being something that you operate, like your social media profiles, instead of being like something that you operate, they are you. Like what is the difference there?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Where does the line end?
So I was also going to say that I think social media like is a tool that say the knife, for instance. It was a great invention. Like multiple different cultures all across the world independently created their own knife. Now, you can use it for like carving, making other tools, hunting, cooking, but you can also use it for bad, can't you?
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, you can look at say knife crime and say we need to ban all knives, but practically, can you really ban knives? Like,
how we're gonna cook our food?
Yeah. So maybe something like that. Maybe that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Its positives and its negatives.
Just thought I'd offer a counterpoint. Like I totally agree and like see where you guys are coming from, but just offering that as a counterpoint.
I think I think it's. I'm sure a lot of amazing things have happened because of social media. Like think of like the amount of crimes that have been prevented because someone was like able to like message someone whenever they wanted, or because they were like fucking live streaming something, or the moment you whip out your phone you instantly deter crime. There's a lot of benefits, really, and it's probably incalculable, like the amount of crime that's been prevented by that. I don't know. The trouble is it's a sacrifice, isn't it? Because I know there's not much research been done yet, but you're kind of sacrificing the brain chemistry of like an entire generation. And who knows what kind of ramifications that's going to have. I think the issue is social media is just a tool. The issue is with how people have used it and with how big companies have like kind of taken advantage of it. Because the internet wasn't always like that, and that's another thing I want to touch on with 20CT. Is that there is a character, quite a nerdy character, who, like in my rendition so far, he's the only one who kind of uses the internet. And back then, to like kind of know your way around the internet and be interested in it, that was like, it was like your trade. It was like your quirk that you were into it. It hadn't pierced popular culture yet. That dial-up tone, big fucking grey box. It's like it was nerdy as shit. And a lot of people weren't aware of how like kind of crucial it was going to be. They thought that was just going to be like another tool as well. So I know it's not answering a question, but to tie it back to 20CT, that's something I kind of want to explore there. Is it like the internet's right there? It's in front of everyone's faces, but like no one has any idea what it is. They're all like fucking like undermining it and like underestimating it.
Yeah,
apart from one guy.
You had the Millennium bug. Everyone thought all systems were going to crash at the turn of the
that would have been so
millennium.
cool.
You know what I thought that was, though? I was a kid, and I thought it was a tummy bug, a cold. Because I was at the right age. I at that point, I guess I was like probably about 8 years old, and I was at the right sort of age. I was at almost like the perfect age to misunderstand that.
It was like a cold.
Yeah, because I didn't understand the concept of this bug that's going to like.
Oh, that's cute.
And then I was just imagining, okay, so there's like a bug that goes into computers and it's going to make all the computers break it. I didn't get it. I just couldn't get my head around the concept, when it was a thing.
So Y2K bug, mummy.
Yeah.
Didn't get a runny nose.
Yeah. In the pilot episode, I did write a little bit towards the end of the episode where Jack is talking about the internet to a couple of other characters.
Yeah.
And I had this thing where the other characters don't even know what the internet is. They're like, "What the hell is that?" And that again comes from like I didn't know what the internet was until the 21st century. Like in the 20th century, in the 90s, I played. I occasionally used my mum's computer. Windows 95 was the first one I remember using. Then Windows 98. I occasionally used it to play Age of Empires, as in later on the first Age of Empires game that came out in 97. I used to play that. But basically my understanding of computers by the end of the 90s was I play Age of Empires on it and I watch DVDs on it, because whenever I first watched DVDs, it was on a 3D PC. Pinball? The first film I ever watched on DVD was Sleepy Hollow. Rented it from a rental place in '99, and that I watched that on a PC. And at the time, it was really weird to me. Just like, okay, so now I'm watching a film on a PC. I'm watching a film on a disc that I put into a PC. Because
that was a pain.
Before that, I was used to watching VHSs.
Do you remember how awkward it was to use? I remember the days before wireless. It was it was shit.
You mean the dial-up tone?
The dial-up tone, and like it fucking crashed every 2 seconds. Gamers back then had patience of saints.
Yeah, I used to hate the dial-up tone. I'd like sit there like this when it was doing the dial-up. Hated it, man.
So annoying. They'd always troubleshoot. I didn't know what troubleshoot meant. All I knew is that every time I clicked it, like nothing changed.
Yeah.
Doesn't that just mean it tries to? Is that when it tries to diagnose what the issue is?
Yeah, it is. But usually it just says. Well, it does the troubleshoot and then basically tells you that it can't do anything about it. Usually,
that's it. It's just a button that's there to kind of calm you down, get you the illusion of options. But I guess to go back to the question, I think it does do good. It definitely does good, social media. But I think, to be fair, what I vision as like the good it can do is less social media and more the I don't know, like the opportunity, like to connect quickly with the people you need to connect and the things that you need to connect to, like like Google Maps I was saying earlier. But where social media starts to get bad is when it gets addictive.
It's like we wouldn't be here without.
We wouldn't be doing this. Yeah,
that's the thing. To be fair, that's a good point. Actually. To be fair, we can't sit here slagging off modern technology.
But the trouble is, we're confusing social media with just the internet in general.
Yeah, like modern technology.
The internet was around before social. You could have done this in the 90s.
Good enough webcam.
You didn't need Facebook to do this, or Instagram or Snapchat or anything like that. But they're so indistinguishable from each other now because the internet's just become the vehicle that social media rides in for a lot of people, I think. And that's like a lot of people's main connection is like to the internet is either social media or like shopping. And they're even indistinguishable now, because what's a better advert than an Instagram post?
Hence influencers, you get people whose job is an influencer.
Their job is to be on social media. You can't trust anyone, can you?
Yeah, no, I do think
you really can't.
I think the advancement of technology and social media has made the world a safer place. It's much easier to stop crimes. It's much easier for somebody who's in danger of becoming the victim of a crime to not become a victim of that crime. And it's also much easier to solve crimes. I'm quite interested in cold cases, which again goes into my interest of different times. So I'm interested in past decades of the 20th century and how life was different then. And so part of and having an interest in like true crime, I also find myself drawn to cold cases, sort of cases that have been unsolved for such a long time, and a lot of those have been solved again with the help of with the advancement of technology and people being connected and stuff like that.
Having said that, though, how many like suicides do you think have happened because of social media? How many stalkers have achieved their goal because they found someone's Facebook page?
I think ultimately the takeaway is that while the advancement of technology and social media, I think makes people's lives safer, but it also it's been misused, or it's the way that it's been used by the mass populace, or the way that it's been almost fed to the mass populace. A lot of I think it kind of reminds me of cigarettes actually. Some like 200 years ago, whatever, when people started smoking cigarettes, it was this fashionable thing. Everyone did it. Apparently, it was supposed to be good for you because it's good for stress or whatever. And then obviously they found out it's actually really bad for you. It it basically rots your lungs.
Some people thought it was good for your throat back then.
Yeah, it's crazy. and social media is sort of similar because I feel like it's this amazing like new invention that was sprung upon us, but we didn't really understand the full capability of how dangerous it could be if it's misused.
I think
misused a lot by people becoming dependent on it, people being addicted to it, spending too much time on it, their lives revolve around it too much.
It'll be the kind of thing where like 50 years from now we'll look back on how unlimited and unregulated our access to it was, and we'll think like, what were we thinking? And because I think it'll come to be acknowledged as like a quite dangerous thing for like people's minds. Also vapes, I feel like I don't know, I know there's not a lot of research been done now, but oh my god, the amount people smoke those. There's like, Jesus Christ, there's gonna be a lot of lung cancer, I think.
Obviously I don't really know much about the science or anything. I don't know. I mean, I've heard that apparently some people think it's worse for you because there might be oil in whatever it is that you're inhaling. You get oil in your lungs. That's something I think is difficult.
Well, the thing is, like, if you smoke cigarettes, like, sure, per puff. They're bad, the worst for you. But you have a cigarette outside, come back in, and then maybe, like 30 minutes or an hour later, you go and have another one. People sit on their asses and suck on vapes non-stop until they run out, and then they go and buy another one. They don't stop. You know what I mean? Like, especially like once they've had a drink, they're just they're like a fucking train. Like, so like even though there's less nicotine in it, like the amount you're smoking and like you're compensating by how often you smoke them, and it's still like fucking hot alien substances going into your lungs. Like, like people say weed isn't that bad for you. But when I was smoking that, I had a cough that just never stopped.
Oh yeah, I remember.
I constantly coughing and shit, and it's like, it's good for you, mate. God, it's medicinal. It's like, oh yeah, it's fucking great. It's great, isn't it? You know what I mean? Don't matter what you're smoking. If you're smoking something, then your lungs are getting fucked. I wanted to buy a pipe, and I was researching like safe herbs I can smoke, thinking there must be like something that you can smoke and like not damage your lungs, and there's nothing. Even like the stuff that isn't that harmful, it says, like don't do it too often, It's like fucking it's so frustrating because I really want a pipe.
Yeah, but I mean,
I just think I'm not addicted to tobacco, so why should I?
You could just get the pipe and use it as a prop.
I want to smoke it though. I want to do Gandalf hoops.
Oh yeah.
I want to do that, but I don't know.
Yeah. So just going back to like 20th Century Tribe on that, and sort of the inspiration behind it. You mentioned the rave scene.
Yeah.
Now, Joe, you mentioned you were born in the early 90s.
Yeah.
I assume that you weren't like as like a 6-year-old kid going to these raves, were you?
Oh, he was a naughty boy back then.
No, but I do remember seeing stuff about the rave scene when I was a kid. Interestingly, I was kind of afraid of teenagers when I was a kid because of the news. Because all I got from the news is, teenagers go to these parties and take loads of drugs, and I was like, they must be awful people, so I thought teenagers were all these horrible, scary people, and that I'm going to be that when I'm a teenager, and I was scared of them because I was a little kid, and I just hear they go to these big parties and they take drugs. And the thing is, the 90s rave scene was kind of the victim of a smear campaign as well. A lot of the mainstream media was sort of calling it evil and sort of making allusions towards Satanism and stuff like that. Ridiculous stuff, like calling it cultish and stuff like that. It's similar to what they did with Hillsborough, where they just outright lied about what people were doing. So yeah, there were some sort of really bad sort of false claims, sort of negative smearing by the mainstream media that made the rave scene sort of, it kind of made people resent it and misunderstand it. I think because people they just, all they knew was what they read in the paper, and what you read in the paper tends to become what you think is the accepted the correct sort of theory or belief or whatever. But yeah, no. I didn't really get into the rave scene until I was older. I just started finding these videos of old 90s rave VHS videos on YouTube, and I got really into the music. Initially, it was actually acid house. The funny thing is, so there's a video game called Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. A lot of people know that.
Classic.
That was my gateway into acid house. I used to listen to the radio SFUR on Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. That got me into acid house, and I thought, I really like this music. I'm going to listen to playlists of acid house on YouTube. So then I was listening to acid house on YouTube. That's how I got into the stuff that made me make the short sort of rave documentary in the editing module at university. And then at a certain point, I discovered like happy hardcore music, which is sort of 90s rave music that came after acid house. And when I heard happy hardcore music, I sort of forgot all about acid house. I was like, this is way better. This is amazing. Forget acid house. That's nothing now. Like, I just fell in love with happy hardcore. And that's my style, really. Like the euphoric kind of, a lot of sort of piano keys and stuff like that mixed in with the music. It sounds really good.
I love that. Sounds so 90s, doesn't
basically it? Just discovered it retroactively and thought, God, this looks amazing. I really wish that I could have been a part of that,
Okay, so I know I didn't know much about it Well, you're right. I didn't know much about it until working with you on 20CT. So for someone who knows nothing about like the rave scene or the 90s rave scene, how would you describe it?
I think it's a counterculture movement. I mean, obviously, I can't really speak with first-hand experience. But all I can say is sort of my observations on it and what sort of drew me to it. It seems like it was a counterculture movement, but also I think it was also just a lot of young people just partying, just having a good time, just enjoying their youth, and they just happened to be into that music and those kind of parties at that time. And ecstasy was a big part of it, but not necessarily to say that everyone there was doing it. And just like any kind of subculture, there was some bad in it. There's always some people doing some dodgy stuff in any subculture that you get into, whatever. But mostly it's just teenagers and young adults of the time just partying, just enjoying themselves to sort of drum and bass music fundamentally, with sort of various sort of various subgenres within the drum and bass sort of genre. So it's I mean there was in sort of like the late 80s, early 90s, there was a big sort of free party movement. A free party being like essentially an illegal party held on farmland or in a warehouse or something like that. There was a lot of that going on in like the early 90s. And then around the early mid 90s, the police started cracking down on that and sort of making it much harder to have illegal raves in the middle of nowhere and stuff like that. So then it ended up sort of being funneled, I guess, or like funneled is perhaps not the right word. It ended up sort of being sort of moved into the clubs. Like the rave scene ended up becoming sort of, I guess, commercialized. Sort of like I'm just trying to work out how to word it.
I'd say
like just essentially the illegal raves stopped happening because the police were cracking down on it, and they started doing raves in the clubs, and then it became the nightclub scene. And I think perhaps a lot of the fun and the excitement and the adventure of the subculture was perhaps lost with that. But again, this is all just my observations. I could be talking complete bollocks,
I think I think the music of the time actually has a lot in common with the musical appetite of someone who's on a stimulant. Definitely, because like repetitive, very intense, very very high intensity, like fast paced. Don't have time to think, just dance. You know what I mean? Because that's kind of what it's like when you're on that stuff. And
that's really interesting. Yeah,
there's I think there's a big relationship between the drug and the music, even if you're kind of trying to like shake that and be like, it wasn't all about the drugs. But there's definitely a correlation there, I think, because if you've ever been on it before and you're in a nightclub, the last thing on it, if you want to listen to, is like fucking Louis Capaldi. Spend 6 minutes singing about how he got upset by a girl. You want like something that's like, it's music. You can always hear it scratching an itch. You know what I mean? It's just like repetitive, constant, keeps the energy high. And yeah, I don't know. I think the music really reflects the appetite of the drug. Plays a big role in it. I think just nightclub music in general, like kind of like what we know today is like modern, nightclub music, dance music. It took a big left turn with that subculture, I think. Because now every song has to be a dance song. If you're in like a nightclub. Like you can't ever imagine going to a nightclub and listening to the Emotions or like ABBA. No, you can listen to ABBA, you can, but not ABBA. I guess like Motown music.
They don't play very much good music.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
But you can't imagine listening to that stuff because it's not like high. It's not, the intensity isn't high enough. Imagine if you went to Magaluf and they played like the Beatles. I'd like to listen to that, but like the people in the crowd, they got an appetite for this stuff now, and they definitely couldn't. It's kind of interesting what like dancing had an effect on music in general. I think because music shifted from being something that you kind of listen to and you dwell on, like a high society kind of operation, to something that you have a drink to and you move to and you pull to. Do you know what I mean? And it's that shift in like music culture is definitely the reason why you wouldn't hear like a 12-minute like orchestral piece these days, like on the radio, which has got ups and downs, and there's no like certain beat in it. It's more like it's more of like a narrative, like a musical narrative. I don't know, I'm waffling, but I think the bottom line of what I was trying to say is that I think there's a big connection between the music and the drug, whether it's like intentional or not, and it's quite interesting that I think.
I find it interesting what you say that, because you said about like repetitive beats.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a UK law specifically banning repetitive beats?
I don't know. Was there?
I'm not.
Jamie, can we pull that up?
I'm not sure on the specifics of that. I've heard about it, but I can't remember exactly what the law was. That's probably something I should refamiliarize myself with, actually. Now,
oh my god, what date?
I thought you had just found.
Sorry, I thought you said where's. Sorry, what, mate?
Ooh, okay.
Oh no, she's just sighing.
The Criminal Justice and Public Order Act of 1994.
I've got it up as well. I've got it up.
Oh, there we go.
Here we go, Joe. Look at that. This is right up your alleyway, this, mate.
Oh.
Primary motivation for the act was to curb illegal raves and free parties, especially the Traveller Festival circuit, which was steadily growing in the early 1990s.
Music includes sounds wholly or predominantly characterized by the emission of a succession of repetitive beats.
That
is
fascinating.
So yeah, that's that's definitely targeting something specific, isn't it?
Yeah, that scratches a very specific itch.
I remember reading about this before. That was my understanding is that was essentially a turning point when, or the turning point, or certainly a turning point anyway. It was a factor in free parties, illegal raves. Free parties becoming, I guess, dying out. And it's sort of moving into the clubs. So in '94, around that time, from my understanding, directly related to this Criminal Justice and Public Order Act 1994. My understanding is that was a major factor in the free parties sort of dying out. But I can't. So I don't. They weren't banning playing that music anywhere, I don't think, though, or were they?
I think, judged by the context of the law, it's collective trespass, nuisance on land, including sections against raves. So,
so it's basically playing a certain type of music on public land. So even if it's public land, you can't play a certain type of music there, because then that would constitute.
It's so funny.
At the same time, like a law is only really a law if it's enforced. And it's probably just worded like that, just so if they do find it, they'll take it down. But if someone is doing it and it's like, oh, that's if they're doing something that technically fits that qualification, they're probably not going to go against them. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but that's what it reads like.
I love the idea of these ravers by law having to listen to more melodic orchestral music. That's great, but that would just encourage them to take acid, or like something that's more something that you can dwell on music on.
I mean, it was amended by the Crime and Disorder Act of 1998, so
didn't last too long.
Nah,
but that you know what, Joe? That means it takes place during 20 CT. That could be something fun to play with.
the criminal, the 94 one, yeah. That's an interesting factor for potentially Brett, like Brett being a bit older. You know, maybe he's like he could be one of those people that has like nostalgia for the time when they could have these big massive free parties in the late 80s, early 90s. And he's like saying to Hood and the other guys, oh, you don't know what it used to be like. It used to be way better than this, and you don't know how cool they used to be. How cool
kids these days don't know how good they have it.
That's funny though that they singled out. They knew, they singled in, sorry, on the music and what it was doing. Because I know there's obviously people there just listening to it to have fun, but like when you're in that, when you're on something and like you're in that zone, the music becomes your lifeblood, becomes your nectar. You need it. When it turns off, it's like you realize how fast your heart's beating, and it's like shit, fuck. I need another song. Interesting. Yes, very good. Very good indeed.
So I think it's probably about time to wrap this up. Before we do, where can people find you guys?
Okay, so
no, I'll give a proper one.
You can find me on Facebook, Twitter. No, not Twitter. Sorry, I don't use Twitter anymore. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. On YouTube, it's J Retro Media. That's where all the trailers, teasers, and everything to do with 20th Century Tribe, the film that was made a couple of years ago, or more than a couple of years ago. But yeah, so the YouTube channel, J Retro Media, that's where all the trailers and teasers and the full film are. Instagram, again, J Retro Media. Also, JR Soul Vision for my personal accounts, as J Retro Media for my production name. And yeah, that's it really.
Find me on YouTube, Wesley Gee. Got some cartoons up there, some short films, some music, or I don't know, Instagram. Also, what is that? Is it Wesley Gee as well?
Either way, it'll be down below.
Either way, it'll be down below. Yeah, and if you wanna contact me about anything, I don't care.
Got quite a lot of subs. Got quite a lot of subscribers on YouTube, haven't you?
I've got a few. Not big boy numbers, but
nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah, I've fallen off a little bit, but if more people start being interested, then I don't know, maybe I'll do something again. Fuck knows.
Oh, please do.
I should do, really, shouldn't I? It comes in waves, I think. Definitely comes in waves. You're riding a wave right now, Jeffrey.
Yeah.
You're being creative as fuck.
Well, I'll say that, but
loads of stuff.
Trying to avoid creative constipation and all that, you know.
It's a bone. It's a muscle. You gotta work it.
Yeah.
And you gotta keep it going.
Pace yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, check these guys out, and if you're watching up to this point and you're not subscribed already, please do. And yeah,
hit the bell.
Hit the bell.
Hit that bell below.
And see you guys.
Bye.
Bye.